from West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Support for the Legislature Today is provided by the following.
The West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission, working with students and families to improve college access and student success for a better West Virginia. West Virginia University, online at wvu.edu.
Good evening and welcome to the Legislature Today. I'm Andrea Lanham at the Capitol Building in Charleston. And it's been quite a day. Joining us now are Brad McElhenney of West Virginia Metro News and Ryan Quinn of the Charleston Gazette-Mail. Hello. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this evening. So let's just start off with, there were hundreds of teachers at the Capitol today, and I'm curious to hear about your reporting on this rally. Brad, we can start with you.
Well, the rally, first of all, was loud. There were quite a few teachers. The individuals in the crowd were quite nice. But the action, as you know, because we were sitting side by side, was in the Senate today, where tempers ran high. They recessed in the Senate much more quickly than we would have thought. And then the folks who were in the gallery reacted in a very strong, emotional way. The doors opened and you could hear people out there, and then Democrats and some of the Republicans filed out front, and it just was enormous in the sense of the crowd reaction, people chanting, "We will strike, we will strike, we will vote you out," and Democrats who have taken the position of being with teachers every step of the way, seeming to really enjoy it.
So Ryan, tell me about the counties that have organized some of the walkouts and some of the protests and your coverage of today.
Yeah, on February 2nd was the first three counties. I believe that was Logan, Mingo, and Wyoming. Then there were 7 more counties that had work stoppages today for their employees, both union and non-union, from all of the different organizations, teachers and service personnel. Bus drivers, every kind of public school employee. And yeah, it was reminiscent of February 2nd, where it was just 2 weeks ago. Again, today we had hundreds of teachers showing up with red shirts on and chanting. I don't know if I heard "We will strike" last time, but I certainly heard it a lot today. I remember some of the Democratic senators coming out of the front doors, and John Unger from Berkeley pumped his fist and got cheers. Ojeda was like a celebrity there. I believe he's D. Logan.
And running for Congress. And
running for Congress. There were several signs that people brought supporting him, and he's advocated for things like increasing the natural gas severance tax, or increasing taxes on that industry in some way in order to fund some of the things that teachers want. And I saw on the House side, I saw Delegate Jim Butler of Mason get cornered by a bunch of Mason County school workers, and they pressed him on things like whether he supports increasing the severance tax on natural gas and things like that. I don't know if cornered is the best word. Maybe they would have let him out if he was trying to leave, but he was certainly at the end of a hallway, and they were all around him, and they were quite agitated with some of his past votes for things like right to work and other issues.
And there's been a lot of anger percolating all over the state. Let's get a local perspective from our northern panhandle with this report from Corey Nolinger in Marshall County.
It is a cold Tuesday morning in Glendale, West Virginia in the northern panhandle, but instead of setting up their classrooms for the day, teachers are out front with signs asking for support. Why stand outside in the freezing weather? Well, the best way to understand might be to go back to 3 days prior at a town hall meeting where Delegate Sean Fluharty had questions for teachers.
Are you angry? Yes! You better be angry, because if you're not angry now, I'm not sure you ever will be. Well, I feel like every year they've just kind of been chipping away at what we've had.
That's Kelly Carter, a teacher at a middle school in Marshall County, and what she is talking about mainly are the cuts the West Virginia Public Employees Insurance Agency is going through. The two main areas most are taking issue with are the raising of out-of-pocket costs from 20% to 40% and taking into account total household income when calculating insurance premiums instead of just the income of the state employee. This is a move even some Republicans, like Delegate Erica Storch, do not agree with.
And it just seems asinine to me that we are basing our premiums on income.
The problem with PEIA comes down to funding. The program needs to secure $50 million per year to keep plans and premiums the same. Marshall County American Federation of Teachers President Josh Gary sees an easy solution to this problem: raising severance taxes on natural resources like coal and natural gas.
A few percentage points to take care of all the public debt that we've got? I mean, come on. I don't think the coal people or the natural gas people or whomever are going to run away.
But Delegate Storch does not think this is an end-all, be-all solution.
While I would not have a problem with supporting the gas and oil severance tax increase, I just want to caution you thinking that it may be the panacea that will correct all the problems.
But even if a raise in the severance tax is not the solution, this problem is taking our teachers away from what they truly want to do: teach.
I personally enjoy my job. I love it. But it's something that is going to cause people to finally say, I can't do this anymore.
As a matter of fact, somebody asked me earlier, they said, "Are you fired up about what's going on?" And I said, I'm somewhere on the fence between wanting to quit immediately and just go get another job and, fighting for, the teachers in our state.
While Governor Jim Justice has proposed a temporary freeze of PEIA plans and premiums as a way to temporarily remedy the situation, Josh Gary knows what his response will be if the teachers end up in the same boat next year.
Out there holding signs.
For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Corey Dollinger in Wheeling.
So we heard some of the concerns just now about PEIA in particular, and let's just give an update to the audience about what's going on with PEIA. Brad, tell me a little bit about the bill that's going through the House or passed through the House today.
Mm-hmm. So, Governor Justice proposed freezing changes that were meant to take place with PEIA for the coming fiscal year. So essentially what's going to happen is a plan that had been very controversial is not going to go forward right now. But the governor says it's going to cost an additional $29 million to freeze the plan as it has been. Well, that money has to come from somewhere. The House has gone ahead and proposed that it come out of the rainy day fund, which is meant to be used for revenue shortfalls. But what Finance Chairman Eric Nelson of the House says is we've got a problem right now and we can at least take care of the problem for now using the rainy day fund. The question that Democrats have had, and frankly has been raised in the Senate, is the rainy day fund an appropriate solution for fixing PEIA, and what do you plan to do going forward? And
you'd raised an interesting point earlier. Do you think that there's going to be some possible Senate resistance to this, to using the rainy day fund for funding this?
Yeah, so actually the House suspended the rules. As you know, things are supposed to be read on 3 separate days. They read it 3 times today in front of a crowd of teachers to show, look, we're doing something. But the Senate has had real reservations about the rainy day fund being used in that way. As you know, the rainy day fund's use and its diminished levels have been real issues the past few years, and the Senate leadership is saying we think we can come up with that money somewhere else, and the rainy day fund should not be touched to try to put money into PEIA.
And Ryan, you attended some of the public hearings that took place. One took place this week in Charleston. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people there were saying a freeze is not a fix. What kind of concerns are you hearing with PEIA?
It's the same thing. I mean, if you think about it in the terms of the fact that the governor has proposed, and it seems to be moving forward, this idea of putting $23 million more out of the rainy day funds. I guess he's retracting something like $6.5 million in general revenue, but it's or taking $29 million out of the rainy day funds, but in the net of the things costing an extra $23 million to freeze the actual benefits and the premiums as they currently exist for next fiscal year. I mean, that's already a lot of extra money, but public employees aren't satisfied with that. It seems by and large they want something that is a promise of a long-term revenue source or a long-term commitment to keeping those benefits and those premiums at the same level. And as was mentioned in the earlier clip, that's $50 million. I think Ted Cheatham said it could be as much as $70 million extra per year due to things like medical inflation. And when you think about what that could pay for instead, I'm sure it's weighing on a lot of lawmakers. How can we do that? And certainly, how can we do that in such a short period of time? I've heard the current free community college bill only costs something like $8 million, I believe, in the way that it's currently set up. But if you made it free years of college for 4 years as well, you can just go to a community college or a four-year college for 2 years free, then that would cost $60 million, according to a fiscal note put together by the CTCS. So, that's just 1 year of extra money into PEIA that could fund 1 year of free tuition for students.
Tough choices.
Absolutely. And now back to the group of teachers who protested here today. PEIA was one of their concerns. Let's take a look at this package by Liz McCormick and Daniel Walker.
The teachers are our face, but this is for everybody. This is your favorite cook, your favorite custodian, the people that greet you when you come in the door, your bus drivers that pick you up in the morning. This is for our correctional officers that are at these places that are dealing with these kids on a daily basis. And we really need to be here and really show them that we matter and that we want to be here. If we weren't here, where would these kids go for the day?
That 2% just really is a drop in the bucket. And if they do all the increases with the PEIA that they're saying that they will, then that's just going to be eaten up by PEIA costs. So it's not going to help. Guys, you need to support your teachers or, these kids are going to fall behind. We love our kids. We come to work every day. We'll take a bullet for these kids. We try to make a difference. So that's what we're here for.
If our legislators aren't going to take care of our teachers, then they're going to leave. My fellow teachers and support staff, cooks, secretaries, custodians, we are chanting united, we stand. We're all in it together.
This is fighting for the students of West Virginia because teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions. These teachers and service professionals are standing up for their students today because we deserve a high-quality education for every child in West Virginia.
This is about 7 different counties that came down today because they saw the folks that were here a couple of Fridays ago. This is kind of like a gear up for our rally tomorrow. So these folks came down. They want their voices to be heard, and as you can tell, they are being heard.
So before we get to some of the issues that happened in the Senate today, let's talk about some of the issues that they had mentioned too, especially with this salary bill. Now that was assigned to the Rules Committee yesterday. I believe you had covered that, Brad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a difference. The Senate and the governor have favored 1% raise next year on a 5-year structure. That went to the House and it was changed to 2% the first year, and they took off one of the final years. And so it's bounced back and forth that way. The thing is, neither of those amounts, as you heard on the video, was something that that teachers want. Both are below what the teachers really seem to want. But in any case, the Senate is trying to buy time, in part to assess where the state budget stands, what can be afforded, what is the revenue cycle right now. So it went into this Rules Committee, was assigned there. Rules Committee is not a committee that regularly meets, it's the leadership, and it mostly comes together toward the end of the session to decide what bills are going to move forward on the floor, which ones are not. But in this case, it's been used as a way to back pocket that bill, to buy a little bit of time to figure out what's acceptable to all parties here, including the governor's office.
And Ryan, we had heard Christine Campbell from the AFT West Virginia talk about the rally at the Capitol tomorrow. Tell me what you've heard so far about that.
Well, Delegate Spinagle, Democrat on the floor, when he made a motion today in the House of Delegates to actually bring the House back into session tomorrow, and that failed, was shot down. He raised a concern about there being a possible statewide teacher strike, or some sort of statewide action coming up next week. He said that right on the floor, and the rally tomorrow, I've heard that there's going to be some sort of announcement by the teachers union leaders as far as some sort of action, but I don't know at this point what that action is, and it could be dependent upon what senators actually do when they reconvene at 6 p.m. Their adjournment today, or their holding off until 6 p.m. while the rally was still going strong, that was seen as an insult by a lot of the school employees here today, that the fact that they did not stay in session.
Now, Brad, both of us were in the Senate today, and there was a very heated exchange in the Senate between the minority leader and Senator Mike Azinger. Can you just kind of take me through some of the events that happened today?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was sensory overload for me, and emotions were sort of heightening throughout that session. But it had to do with a bill that had nothing to do with teachers or pay raises or public health insurance. It was a bill on consumers. And the accusation was that Senate Minority Leader Prezioso thought that the bill had died in committee, and then it was resurrected apparently when Democratic committee members were not around, according to Prezioso. Well, the committee chairman, Senator Maynard from Wayne County, took offense, said, "Look, you're personally insulting me and the way I run the committee." And you could see the tensions rising, people getting chippier and chippier. A motion was made by Senator Trump of Morgan County to recess. He said it very quickly, said, and then another thing, I want to have my Judiciary Committee meet at 2. Gavel comes down, the galleries go bananas, people gesturing, standing, saying things down below. And I was looking up there, and what I didn't realize at first was that there was a scuffle among senators. Republicans and Democrats had gotten up in each other's faces and were jawing. Then the doors opened and you could hear the crowd out. The Democrats flew out the door, standing on the stairs, sort of interacting with the crowd in ways that you mentioned. And it was just so much going on at once. It was just crazy.
Now, with Azinger and Prezioso, that debate with over the consumer lending bill, we actually do have a clip of that. So let's take a listen to what happened on the floor today.
President, would the gentleman yield?
Senator from Wood yield? Senator does yield.
Yes, sir. Senator, it's my recollection when we were in the committee several days ago that we killed this bill.
The bill was brought back at the subsequent meeting and was passed out of committee.
So the bill was brought back in the next meeting when the Natural Resources Committee
I had no control over what committee was.
Most of our members were in the Natural Resources Committee, from what I understand. We were, I think, I know we were talking about Senate Bill 270, the timbering bill, which is an important bill, and
well, we can all make a decision which committees we can go to, can't we? Is that?
Well, we certainly don't schedule committees over top of each other when we have an important issue like this.
Our committee meeting is Monday.
So you went ahead and put this bill on the agenda, knowing that most of the members that objected to this bill were in the Natural Resources Committee.
Well, it was a voice vote, and there was a question as to the yeas and nays. So we brought it back, and Very few in opposition showed up. You had a choice what committee you could go to, as does everybody else.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to address the Senate. These folks in the state and in the gallery came down here today. They can least afford to give up a day's pay, but they come down to see us work and legitimately address issues that concern them and the people of the state. The education of our children is of the utmost importance. And when we continue to do the backroom deals and don't put before the people the process that we were elected to do, I'm totally disheartened. This particular bill was killed in the full committee, brought back when members of the committee weren't in attendance. You know, we're a nation of laws, and we try to abide and do the right thing, but when we're hampered by our own colleagues, I'm totally disheartened, Mr. President.
Now, the bill that they were referencing, that was laid over on third reading. And Brad, just like you said, pretty soon after that, Senator Trump called to adjourn until 6 p.m. Were you kind of surprised that that happened?
Yeah, you know, and I was really watching with genuine interest what the Senate Minority Chairman was saying, Minority Leader was saying, because I hadn't picked up on it all. It was just happening so quickly. I was frankly unfamiliar with the bill. I didn't understand why everybody was upset. And then all of a sudden they're calling for recessing, which set off the crowd reaction. And we're going to get right back to it, 6 p.m. And I'm wondering if the crowd will come back. What will the mood be like in there? Are people still going to be mad at each other? We've got a huge rally tomorrow with a strike imminent, and what is next week going to be like?
So let's take a look at what happened earlier today when Senator Trump had called for that adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move, subject to announcements, that the Senate stand in recess till 6 p.m., and I have an announcement.
Further announcements, the senator from Cabell County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know what's going on here, but
recognized for announcements.
I'm announcing that I'm objecting to us adjourning because what's the point?
The point of order has been raised. I mean, with all due respect, you are out of order. We're under.
I'd like to make a point of inquiry. We have all these citizens that have traveled here today. Why are we shutting down till 6 o'clock is by inquiry.
There's lots of work to be done. Your point is out of order, and we're proceeding with business. Senator from Marion County.
Your minority caucus will meet immediately upon recess.
Further announcements. Not question for the Senate. Shall the Senate stand in recess until 6 p.m. today? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate in recess until 6 p.m.
So Brad, just like you said, there was a lot of drama that had happened in the Senate today. Just kind of wrap that up for us.
Well, the drama continues. They recessed and they're going to go back in. Apologies if you're listening to this a little bit later, but a lot of the teacher crowd cleared out through the afternoon, but many of those people who are from out of town are staying in local hotels. Many are attending the Saturday rally, so they'll be back. School is out now. So what I'm wondering, and I think I hear a crowd building out there, how many people are now building again to go watch the Senate in action this evening?
So switching gears a little bit, what are we going to be looking at for next week? Is this still going to be an issue? What's your prediction? Ryan, I'll start with you.
I think it will still be an issue, but because again, I don't see what the legislature can currently do to assuage the concerns about PIA not having a long-term funding fix. Other than that, I'm going to be looking for some bills that just passed early on in the session and have not moved anywhere, like the free community college bill. I mean,
it's in the House now and it's gone nowhere, you're right.
It's gone nowhere. Or the Department of Education and the Arts dismantlement bill, which appeared on an agenda today, and then that meeting was canceled, and then yeah, so there's multiple bills. You know, elected state school board bill that's been gone all session since it first passed out of House Education, got sent to a subcommittee in Judiciary. So
and crossover day is rapidly approaching.
Yeah,
day 45, which is the day that the House and the Senate need to have switched bills, so then they can only work on the others. But you're right. I mean, we're ending on cliffhangers this week. 2% or 1%, will that please anybody? Go to the rainy day fund for PEIA. Will the House and the Senate agree? Will teachers be pleased by any of these options? And what is the role of the governor in all this? It seems he wasn't here today, and there was some criticism of him when there were some options on the table last night. Where was he?
So much to follow next week, that's for sure, and so much to continue to follow even after this.
Cliffhangers.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we have Brad McElhenney with West Virginia Metro News and Ryan Quinn with the Charleston Gazette-Mail. Thank you both. This wraps up the 5th full week of the 2018 legislative session. With the teacher strike pending, major bills making their way through the process, and a budget to be delivered, we hope you'll tune in for all the coverage on the Legislature Today, weeknights at 6 p.m. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Andrea Lanham. Thanks for joining us and have a great weekend.